ఇంటర్మీడియట్ విద్యారంగంలో అగ్రగామి మన ఎన్ఎస్ఆర్ ఇంపల్స్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్. ఐఐటి, జేఈఈ అయినా, నీట్ అయినా తిరుగులేని విద్యా సంస్థ ఎన్ఎస్ఆర్ ఇంపల్స్.
Now let's go with the next chapter. The next chapter is plant growth and development. So for the last chapter, what I can suggest you guys here, for the last concept we studied mineral nutrition. In mineral nutrition, take the academic second year textbook. If you don't have academic textbook, what I can do here is I'll send you in WhatsApp the elements and what you call the symptoms what they have to study, means elements and where they are present I have written on the board. Do you remember element and in what form it is present in the plant, like maybe in the form of amino acids, proteins and hormones, vitamins and all that, right? And what are the deficiency symptoms, what are the diseases it causes for each element. So like that we have a table. So what you can do is I will send in WhatsApp. Every day try to practice 3 elements. Every day try to practice 3 elements. Make one table and in that you write down first element and metabolism or the importance, and then you write down deficiency symptoms, and you write down deficiency symptoms. So like this you can make one table, write down the first 3 elements. Every day you can practice 3 to 4 elements every day. Mineral nutrition you have to practice every day 3 to 4 elements. Make sure when you practice then only you can remember all the important points related to that. Otherwise it's very quite difficult for the people to remember. So what you have to do is take the element nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, potassium. For example, you take the 4 elements and I'll send you that the textbook copy of the page. I'll send you in WhatsApp and write down in what form it is present in the plant, what is an important role of all metabolic processes like photosynthesis and nitrogen fixation, respiration, right, amino acids, proteins, like that. So where exactly the element plays an important role, means in which metabolism the element plays very important role. And suppose if the nitrogen is not supplied in proper quantity to the plant, so then what type of deficiency symptoms it shows? Like for example, it shows chlorosis as well as necrosis. Like that you will get a table. I'll send the table as in the form, and make sure that every day you try to practice 3 to 4 elements. If you can practice in a day 3 elements, next day more 3 elements, and the next day more 3 elements, like that in 3 to 4 days. If you can take 4 elements also, it's well and fine. Like that every day if you can practice the table 3 to 4 every day, in 3 days or 4 days you can complete the preparation of the table. For example, zinc. Zinc is a precursor for formation of oxine. Oxine means indole 3-acetic acid. Such type of points are there. Some points IAA, for example, if you take zinc is having IAA. What is this IAA? It's called indole 3-acetic acid. Indole 3-acetic acid. This is a compound required for synthesis of oxine. So in textbook you may study this. Zinc is an activator for a compound called IAA. Suppose in the textbook it is fine. Zinc is the activator for IAA, indole 3-acetic acid. This is a compound required for synthesis of oxine. It's given that. Probably you may not know what is this oxine, what is this indole 3-acetic acid. Without knowing this, how to study this? Zinc is an element required for these compounds. Such kind of small doubts may arise in your young mind, in your little mind. Don't worry guys, these terminologies, what are they and what is their role, we are going to study in the continuation of this chapter called plant growth and development. As you know, every chapter is interrelated. So sometimes in somewhere iron and magnesium and all that, you know, they plays very important role called ETS. Okay, I say iron or you know magnesium, calcium, all this will play important to copper, play an important role in ETS. It's given as ETS in the textbook. What is that ETS? ETS is called electron transport system. ETS is called electron transport system. So what is electron transport system? We will study in detail after this in the next chapter, photosynthesis and respiration. At that time question will come, which elements plays an important role in ETS? Then you have to remember what are the other things I said, copper I said, manganese I said, even calcium I said. Right, these elements they play a very important role in electron transport system. Presently you try to remember these elements plays an important role in electron transport system. What is electron transport system? We will study at the time of photosynthesis and respiration. At that time what is ETS and what is the total pathway of ETS, how it starts, where it ends, everything we are going to study in ETS. At that time I will ask you question that which elements plays an ETS, means you have to talk about today's concept of preparation. These are the elements which plays in ETS at the time when we talk about ETS. So even though you do not know, try to remember element and what is their role in metabolism. Even that some terminologies may make you to struck up, but do not worry, those terminologies we have to discuss in detail in the coming chapters. So what you have to do now, presently every day you take 3 elements. I will send you the table and the textbook copy of Telugu Academy page textbook I will send you in WhatsApp. Make sure that every day you take 3 to 4 elements. Practice thoroughly on the paper 3 to 4 times. First you learn, first you concentrate and listen and look at the concept, thoroughly you study, prepare thoroughly and practice 3 or 4 times on the paper, recite orally in your mind, write once on your paper, because all elements are very important and these elements and the concept are going to be interrelated with the other chapters. So guys, I expect every girl, every boy has to do this work very seriously on the paper. If you can practice on a white paper, you can, if you say that work is done, you can send me through WhatsApp that work is done. If you can really do every day 3 to 4 elements, that becomes awesome work and very wonderful work, because these elements are very much interrelated with the other chapters. So when other chapters comes, at that time of concept, answers will be at the tip of your tongue. Yeah, for this concept ma'am, those are the elements. So if you can remember and tell me answers in coming classes in your second year, that is a most wonderful job. Okay, I hope everybody can do this work seriously, right? This is nothing but completely a mineral nutrition. Guys, go ahead, mineral nutrition, coming weekend exam is mineral nutrition, right? So this we completed now, we completed mineral nutrition, right? Now let us go with the next chapter. The next chapter is a plant growth and development. Let us take a new chapter, plant growth and development. So here let us study about plant growth. In living world, in the very first chapter, people are already familiar with the definition for the growth. So let us study about the plant growth. So if you look at the plant growth, how the way we define the growth can be defined it as irreversible, a permanent increase in, irreversible, a permanent increase in the size or the height, we say mass or volume, surface area, right, or we say number, in terms of number, right. So whenever you talk in terms of, we say increase in size, similarly we say increase in height, increase in mass, like that, increase in volume, increase in surface area. These are the ways to define what is called as the growth phenomenon. And why you have written in the beginning irreversible? Why do you call this as irreversible phenomena? It cannot be reversible. Once the organism has grown up to certain height, can you make it dwarf again back? No, you can't do it. So, it cannot be reversible. So, it is a irreversible, a permanent increase. So, what the increase in diameter or the length or the height or the mass or the height or the weight, whatever you write, okay. So, whatever we write, that itself is referred as growth. Suppose if there is an increase in size, it is referred as growth. If there is an increase in height, it is also called growth. Increase in mass, or we say increase in volume, or we say increase in density, surface area, number, weight. These are the different ways to define the plant growth in different type of organisms. So, here, so when you study the growth phenomena here, mostly if you look at, now what do we say here? The plant growth is indeterminate. The plant growth is indeterminate. What did you study about growth earlier? Guys, you know it very well. So, here the growth, if you take what you call abiotic components and biotic components. What are biotic components meaning? Living organisms. Abiotic components meaning non-living components. Okay, abiotic means non-living components, biotic means living components. So, when you take the growth phenomena, does the growth occurs in abiotic? Definitely no. But what we studied in earlier chapters, in abiotic components, the growth is extrinsic. The growth is extrinsic. How it occurs? By accumulation of materials. It occurs by accumulation of materials externally. Right, we studied this earlier very clearly. So, whenever you add some material externally to any non-living component, that itself is called as a phenomena called extrinsic. What is extrinsic? The growth is visible externally by the addition of materials. Coming to biotic or living organisms. Now, it is said to be intrinsic. What is intrinsic phenomena? It occurs internal process. It occurs internally. It is said to be internal process. Alright, so what is intrinsic? It occurs internally. Now, these living organisms are further classified into plants and then animals. So, if you look at the plants and animals very clearly, so once again I write here, what are we writing? Biotic. So, here it is an intrinsic process. So, what are we studying here? Plants, and then what we studying here? Animals. What we studying here? Plants and then animals. So, what happens in case of plants here? So, in case of plants, the growth is said to be indeterminate. We write this as what? Indeterminate. And in case of animals, it is said to be as determinate, or we say, here we write unlimited growth. Growth is unlimited. Here we write the growth is limited. What's the meaning of that? How do you differentiate in case of plants and animals? In case of plants, when you say growth is indeterminate or unlimited, what is the meaning of that? Growth occurs throughout the lifespan of the plant. If this is a plant, this is an apical bud. You know, apical bud is the one which contain meristematic tissue. Apical bud is the one which contain meristematic tissue. Right. So, what we have here, apical bud is there here. It's keep growing and growing. So, here apical bud, at the tip it contains what? Meristematic tissue. At the tip it contains meristematic tissue, where the cells undergo the process called as cell division. They undergo what is called cell division. So, here the plant growth occurs throughout their life. Plant growth in some plant occurs throughout their life. means the plant is keep growing throughout their life. Not in all plants, but in most of the plants, in some of the plant growth occurs throughout their life. Like tallest plants, eucalyptus, or if you take gymnosperm, Sequoia-dendron, they are nothing but tallest plants. Now coming to this is unlimited, the growth is unlimited. Indeterminate means you cannot define the growth, you cannot measure the growth, you cannot take only up to this is only the growth, you cannot say, you cannot determine. It is indeterminate. Today if you count and tell me, okay, this is nothing but around 3 feet height, if you cannot fix that is a growth, by next year after 2 years it can reach up to 4 feet. So here the growth is indeterminate, you cannot determine the growth, we call it as indeterminate. Coming to animals, the growth is, in case of animals, the growth is determinate, means you can determine, you can find the growth. Why? The growth is limited. Why the growth is limited? In these animals, the growth occurs up to certain age. So you can write growth occurs up to certain age. Growth occurs up to certain age. Up to certain age, the growth occurs. So this is how we make the difference between plants and animals. In plants we say growth is indeterminate. So if you look at very clearly in this case, you can say root apex and shoot apex. What do they contain? Root apical meristem. Right. Shoot apex contain both apical and axillary. Axillary is also called as what? Lateral meristem. So here you find apical meristem, here you find axillary or lateral meristem. So what's the meaning of that here? So if you take the plant here, so here this is the plant if you take, so this is the root contain apical meristem. Tip of the shoot also contain apical meristem. Along with that, you know that from the place where branch develops, the place where from leaf develops, this is called axillary or we call lateral meristem. Laterally the growth occurs. This is called axillary bud or itself we call this one as what? Lateral meristem. So growth is indeterminate. Why? Because why it is indeterminate? Indeterminate means growth continuously happens in the root apex as well as in the shoot apex because of apical meristem as well as axillary or lateral meristem. So here if you look at here, you know in anatomy part we studied plant contains, here plant growth is indeterminate means we understood. Now when you talk about the plant growth, where the growth occurs? In the primary meristem and also in secondary meristem. So in case of primary meristem, we find what is called apical meristem and intercalary meristem. If you can recollect it back once again what we discussed at the time of anatomy. In the anatomy, we clearly discussed what we have discussed, meristematic cells and permanent cells. Did you remember? We discussed about meristematic cells and permanent cells. The cells which has ability to undergo cell division are called meristematic cells. Meristematic cells are further divided into two types. What are they? Primary meristem and secondary meristem. You know that primary meristem mainly contribute for the primary growth. It mainly contributes for primary growth. Similarly, the secondary meristem mainly contribute for secondary growth. So here we can write it mainly contributes for secondary growth. Right. Primary growth of the plant, it occurs by primary meristems, as you already know, we already discussed in anatomy. What are the two meristems which fall in primary meristem? They are nothing but apical meristem and intercalary meristem. Right. What is that? Apical meristem and intercalary meristem. The new cells what I find here are called apical meristem, and whenever in between two cells. So this is a mature cells, or we call permanent cells, and this is also mature cells or permanent cells. In between, if you find the cells which actively participate in cell division, then they are called intercalary meristem. You already have studied this. What we call them? Intercalary meristem. We find both apical meristem as well as intercalary meristem. Both will contribute for the primary growth of the plant. Apical cells will undergo cell division and lead to the growth phenomena here. Growth occurs here. That contributes primary growth. Similarly, in case of grasses, where in between two mature regions, you find the cells which undergoing what is called cell division. These cells, they responsible for increase in elongation of the internode. That's most commonly we find in grasses, sugarcane and all that, where intercalary meristem also contribute for primary growth, and they are called primary meristems. So here coming to even what contributes for the growth is nothing but secondary meristem. Secondary meristem is also called as what? Lateral meristem. We already have discussed, and this is also called as what? Cylindrical meristem. Also called as what? Cylindrical meristem. This occurs in the later part of it, where the growth of the huge trunk, if you take, so the growth occurs in increasing the diameter. So there is an increase in diameter. Why? Because what occurs here, it's called lateral meristem. The meristematic cells what are present here, they laterally undergo cell division, and increase in cell number produces new cells. As a result, there is an increase in diameter. But that occurs in the later part of the plant growth. So this is called a secondary growth. At the time of secondary growth, there is an increase in diameter and girth. There is an increase in diameter and girth. Girth means is the same diameter. Who is responsible for increase in girth or diameter? Lateral meristem, which is also called a cylindrical meristem, which is also referred as what? Secondary meristem. Guys, this is anatomy part what you studied. But let us remember the growth what happens in the plant, it's referred as open form of growth. The growth what happens in the plant, it's called as what? Open form of growth. Why? Because it's clearly visible. If you measure that today the plant is at 2 feet height, after 1 year and 2 years, definitely you can see that the growth it grows up to 4 feet or 5 feet. So here you can see the increase in growth, and you can measure the. So here the increase in growth can be visible very clearly, right? So you can measure this. This can be visible very clearly. That's why it's called as open form of growth. So as growth can be visible very clearly, you can measure it. So we call the next concept, growth is measurable. What we can say? Growth is measurable. So for example, what are the ways to define growth? So you can define the growth as increase in the cell number or number of cells, or you can also define the growth as increase in size of the cell, or you can also define increase in length. What are the other parameters? Increase in mass, increase in volume, increase in density, increase in weight. These are the different parameters which we look for to define a growth phenomenon. So let us see how it is measurable. Let us take few parameters in the definition of growth. So if you define the growth as increase in number of cells, so that can be taken as an example. You can take the example, a maize root apical meristem. So if you take the tip of the root, a root apical meristem, in case of maize, where at the time of active growth period of the plant, there is an increase in number of cells. there is an increase in number of cells up to 17,500 number of cells are produced within 1 hour time. Within 1 hour time, when maize plant has all nutrients, all conditions are favorable, when active growth is taking place, so within 1 hour span of time you can see the formation of 17,500 number of cells. Okay, so here number of cells are increasing per hour. So how do you refer the growth? Here for every 1 hour there is a formation of 17,500. So this is a good example for defining the growth in terms of cell number. Similarly, a growth is also can be defined as increase in size. The best example for this is you can take watermelon. So if you take the watermelon where the volume of the watermelon increases in its size, how the increases up to 3,50,000 times. So at the stage where a fruit is formed, watermelon is produced, then watermelon in the season it grows very fast. Where there is an increase in volume or increase in size, it takes up to 3,50,000 times. Similarly, if you take the parameter called increase in length we can take length of pollen tube. So pollen tube is keep growing within the flower if you take. So this is the one. So here this is nothing but what we call stigma. Now pollen grain is fallen here. Pollen grain forms the pollen tube. Now pollen tube is also growing. The length of the pollen tube to reach the ovary can also be taken as a good example for knowing the parameter increase in length. So if you look at this terminology of pollen tube, you can have other parameters to remember here. In mineral nutrition you studied a very important elements. What are they? Boron as well as calcium. So whenever you talk pollen tube is related with the concept of mineral nutrition. Boron is very much essential for increase in pollen tube length. Similarly, in which direction pollen tube has to grow, how it will come to know the location of the ovary here, it is because of calcium. Boron makes the length of pollen tube, but calcium makes the movement of the growth of pollen tube towards the ovary. How calcium makes the growth here? By translocation of sugars. Sugars are get transported from one place to other place with the help of calcium. Again I repeat, translocation of sugars is well taken care by calcium, right. So this is nothing but growth is measurable. Now let us talk about the phases of growth. Now if you look at the phases of the growth, let us talk about the young plant is growing, or you can take the seed on the process called seed germination. So here we are talking about seed germination. So when the seed is in germination, it produces the cotyledons. You can see 2 cotyledons were there. Slowly at the time of germination, slowly it comes out, right. So it comes out and produces the young plant like this. So this is the soil. Okay, it germinates and produces. Of course, if it is germinate above the soil, it is called epigeal. If the germination occurs above the soil. If the germination occurs above the soil, then what is hypogeal? The germination occurs inside the soil. Germination occurs inside the soil. If the germination of the seed is above to the soil, it is called epigeal. And if the germination of the seed, I am drawing here, the seed is getting germinated here and it's getting coming as a plantlet here. This is called hypogeal. Seed germinated within the soil, it's called hypogeal. Seed germinated above to the soil, it's called epigeal. Now what happens here? Now if you talk about phases of the growth, let us take, this is nothing but what we write here, apical meristem as usual at the tip of the plant. Now what's happening here? Cells are in the phase called cell division. So cell division is happening here. As a result of cell division, new cells are produced. So here this region is called meristematic region, or this zone is called as what? Meristematic zone. Why do you call this as meristematic zone? The cells which are present are in active state of cell division. In meristematic zone, if you look at the characteristics of meristematic zone, here it contains abundant reserve food material, it store lot of food materials. Along with the abundant reserve food materials means what it includes? Water as well as huge amount of minerals. Similarly, it contains large conspicuous nucleus. So here if you observe in this case, you can see a cell is having a larger nucleus, and also it contains a primary cell wall. Why? Young cells contains only primary cell wall. Secondary cell wall is totally absent. Okay, this young cells are newly producing cells, they contain only primary cell wall. Primary cell walls are with abundant means numerous, many what are called plasmadesmatal connections. What's the meaning of this? Here, what is present here? This is called nucleus. A large nucleus is present. Surrounding to this, what is present? It's called primary cell wall is present. Now, in this primary cell wall, you find plasmadesmatal connections. This is connected with neighbor cell. This is connected with neighbor cell. The connections are called as what? Plasmadesmata. The connection between two cells is called what? Plasmadesmata. In the very first year in cytology, you studied that cytoplasmic bridges, extensions of cytoplasm which connects between one cell to other cell, it's called as what? Plasmadesmata. So at the time of young cell, where it is newly produced in the meristematic zone, which contain abundant plasmadesmatal connections with only what is called primary cell wall. Next here we find what is called elongation. Now here this is nothing but what we call first zone. We studied just now, it's called meristematic zone. This is called as what? Meristematic zone. Now then after once cells are newly produced, the cells elongate in size and forms what is called as elongation zone. What is produced here? It's called elongation zone. In elongation zone, what happens here? There is increase in, we have what is called elongation zone. In elongation zone, cells are characteristic of having increase in vacuolation, meaning what happens? There is a formation of vacuole. A bigger vacuole is produced, nucleus becomes small, nucleus pushed to one corner. Nucleus is completely pushed to one corner. So here increase in vacuolation causes enlargement of the cell. It causes enlargement of the cell. The zone is called as what? Elongation zone, and here abundant reserve food material. It also stores abundant reserve food material and makes all slowly to start with metabolic processes of the cell. Cell tends to start its own metabolic processes. So what are the characteristics of the cell? You can see cells elongate in size, they increase in size, they enlarge, and bigger vacuole is produced, pushing nucleus to one corner. That's called elongation zone. Then further they enter into what is called maturation zone, or itself is called as a permanent tissue zone. A permanent tissue zone. What is that permanent tissue zone here? The cells are, now the cells which you find here, now they are structurally and functionally differentiated. The cells what we find here are structurally as well as functionally they are differentiated. Okay, so in this case each cell is specifically structurally it may become parenchyma cell, one cell structurally it may become collenchyma cell, other cell structurally it may become sclerenchyma cell. Every cell is assigned to do some function, that's why it's called maturation zone. Every cell completely completes its formation like shape, and every cell is assigned to do a specific function. So structurally and functionally the cells are differentiated. Now cells will lose the ability to undergo, so there is a loss of ability to undergo cell division. Means further they will not participate in the process called cell division. Further no more participation of these cells into what is called cell division. So they lose the ability to undergo cell division. Every cell is structurally functionally differentiated, and that is the third phase called as maturation zone or permanent tissue zone. So these are nothing but different phases. What are the three phases we have? First one is called as meristematic zone. These are the characteristics of the cells in the meristematic zone. And second one is called elongation zone. These are the characteristics of elongation zone. And third one is called as maturation zone, and these are the characteristics of maturation zone.